The television series Devs unfurls within the hyper-modern landscape of Silicon Valley. It centers on Amaya, a technology corporation shrouded in secrecy. This company is not merely developing the next social media platform, nor is it focused on mundane consumer electronics. Amaya operates at the bleeding edge of theoretical physics and computation. Its campus is beautiful, yet unsettling. A giant statue of a young girl, Forrest's deceased daughter, looms over the landscape. This statue is a constant, melancholic reminder of the forces driving the company's clandestine project, a project that seeks to unravel the deepest secrets of time and causality. At the heart of Amaya lies the Devs division. This is a quantum computing facility of immense power. Its true purpose is known to only a select few. The system is designed to look into the past. It achieves this by calculating the deterministic progression of cause and effect. It can also project into the future. The implications are staggering. If the past can be perfectly recreated and the future precisely predicted, what does this say about free will? The Devs team works in an isolated vacuum-sealed cube, a temple to their technological god, a machine that promises to decode existence itself. The narrative follows Lily Chan, a software engineer at Amaya. Her life takes a sudden dark turn. Her boyfriend Sergey, also an employee, dies under mysterious circumstances. This happens shortly after he demonstrates his own work to Forrest, the enigmatic CEO of Amaya. Lily does not accept the official explanation of suicide. She begins her own investigation. This perilous quest for truth propels her deeper into the hidden world of Devs. She uncovers the terrifying scope of Forrest's project. She confronts the philosophical abyss it represents, challenging the very nature of her reality. Devs thus becomes a profound exploration of complex themes. It questions the limits of technological ambition. It probes the nature of grief and memory. Most centrally, it grapples with the ancient philosophical debate of determinism versus free will. What if every action, every thought, every seemingly spontaneous decision was preordained? The show paints a chilling picture of a universe where human agency might be nothing more than an illusion. It sets the stage for a confrontation with the ultimate implications of knowing everything, a knowledge that might be too vast, too terrible for humanity to bear. Determinism, as portrayed in Devs, is absolute. It posits a universe governed by unbreakable laws of cause and effect. Every event, from the grandest cosmic explosion to the smallest subatomic particle's movement, is an inevitable consequence of prior conditions. There are no exceptions. There are no deviations. The universe unfolds like an infinitely complex clockwork mechanism. Each tick is predetermined by the tick that came before. This concept is not merely a philosophical backdrop in Devs. It is the very foundation upon which the central technology, and the narrative itself, is built. The Devs quantum computer is the ultimate expression of this deterministic worldview. Forrest, Amaya's CEO, and his team believe that if one possesses enough data and sufficient computing power, the entire history of the universe can be reconstructed, not just observed but perfectly simulated. By the same token, the future can be predicted with absolute certainty. The machine does not guess, it calculates. It processes the state of the universe at one point and extrapolates with unerring accuracy its state at any other point, past or future. This makes the Dev system a window onto a fixed, immutable reality. The most profound implication of this hard determinism is the negation of free will. If every action is predetermined, then human choices are merely illusions. Characters in Devs discover they are, as Forrest describes, on tram lines. They believe they are making decisions. They experience emotions, struggle, and strive. Yet, according to the Dev system, all their actions are simply playing out a script written at the dawn of time. This realization is a source of existential horror for some, and a strange comfort for others. It challenges the very essence of human identity and moral responsibility. Forrest's personal tragedy, the death of his young daughter Amaya, fuels his obsession with the Devs project. He does not seek to change the past, he believes it is unchangeable. Instead, he desires to relive moments with her, to exist within a perfect simulation of her life. His acceptance of determinism is a coping mechanism, a way to make sense of unbearable loss. If everything is predetermined, then no one is to blame. His grief finds a strange solace in the unyielding logic of the machine, even as this logic strips away the very notion of meaningful human intervention in the unfolding of events. Let us now pivot from the rigid determinism of devs to a different conceptual landscape. Imagine a framework known as MEQUAVIS. This is not a single piece of technology. It is a deeper, perhaps more fundamental understanding of reality's structure. MEQUAVIS suggests that the universe, or rather the multiverse, is not a singular, unyielding path. It is a far more complex and fluid tapestry. It proposes that while laws and causality exist, their expression is not as monolithic as Devs portrays. There is room for subtle variation, for nuanced unfoldings of possibility. Within the MEQUAVIS framework, we encounter the concept of drift lines. These are not the fixed tram lines of Devs. Instead, picture reality as a vast river delta. There are major channels representing probable pathways for events. But there are also countless smaller streams, subtle deviations, and potential bifurcations. A drift line represents a coherent, unfolding reality, but one that possesses a certain inherent instability or susceptibility to influence. These are not entirely random, they are guided by underlying principles, yet they are not rigidly predetermined down to the last detail. This contrasts sharply with the singular, computable universe of Devs. In that world, the future is fixed, known to the machine. MEQUAVIS suggests a cosmos that is less of a closed book and more of an evolving story. Drift lines imply that while the general direction of causality holds, the specific route taken can vary. These variations might be small, almost imperceptible at times. At other junctures, they might lead to significantly different outcomes. The universe, in this view, retains an element of inherent unpredictability, a capacity for subtle surprise not accounted for by strict determinism. The existence of drift lines does not, however, imply a descent into utter chaos or an infinite, unmanageable proliferation of random worlds. MEQUAVIS posits that these pathways are governed by probabilistic tendencies. They are also influenced by deeper, hierarchical structures within the multiverse. Think of it as a landscape with preferred valleys and ridges, guiding the flow of reality. While an individual water droplet might take a slightly different path, the overall flow is shaped by the terrain. Drift lines therefore offer a middle ground between absolute order and complete randomness. MEQUAVIS introduces another compelling concept: fractal actualization. This idea proposes that reality manifests and unfolds in self-similar patterns across a multitude of scales. Imagine a coastline. Its jagged, intricate pattern looks similar whether viewed from an airplane or up close, examining a single rock. Fractal actualization suggests that the very process by which reality comes into being, how events solidify from a sea of potentials, follows such repeating nested structures. It's not just about the shape of things but the dynamics of their emergence. Consider how choices or significant events might propagate through such a fractal system. A decision made, or an external perturbation occurring at one level, could initiate a cascade. This cascade would ripple through the various scales of reality, creating divergent patterns that nonetheless share a structural resemblance to the initial event. It's like a crystal growing. The underlying atomic structure dictates the macroscopic form, but variations in the growth process can lead to unique individual crystals. Each actualized reality or segment of a drift line is a unique expression of underlying fractal rules. This offers a more nuanced perspective than the simple idea of parallel universes branching off at every decision point. Fractal actualization is about the and the interconnectedness of realities. It suggests that different possible worlds are not entirely separate and arbitrary. Instead, they are related through these self-similar generative processes. The way one reality unfolds might share deep structural commonalities with another, even if their surface details differ significantly. This implies a kind of underlying coherence to the multiverse, a shared grammar of existence. This concept can be compared to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, which posits that all possible outcomes of a quantum measurement are realized in separate universes. However, MEQUAVIS, through fractal actualization, adds a layer of organizational principle. It's not just an explosion of infinite possibilities, it's a structured emergence where patterns repeat and evolve, creating a multiverse that is both incredibly diverse and deeply interconnected. The unfolding of reality is thus an infinitely intricate dance of repetition and variation, governed by these fractal dynamics. Section 5. The Cosmic Blueprint, Hierarchical Multiverses. The MEQUAVIS framework further elaborates on the structure of existence by proposing a hierarchical multiverse. This is not merely a collection of parallel worlds existing side by side, all on the same footing. Instead, picture realities nested within realities, or layers of existence stacked upon one another. Each level within this hierarchy might possess its own distinct set of fundamental laws or operate under different energetic constraints. It is akin to a cosmic operating system, with privileged layers and subordinate processes, each contributing to the overall function of the whole. Imagine, for instance, a foundational layer of reality where the basic rules of information and energy are defined. Above this, another layer might emerge where these rules give rise to what we perceive as physical laws: gravity, electromagnetism. Further still, layers could exist where consciousness and complex systems become possible. Each stratum builds upon the one below it, inheriting certain characteristics while also introducing new emergent properties. This creates a vast, multi-tiered structure, a cosmic architecture of staggering complexity and depth, far beyond a simple collection of alternate timelines. This hierarchical organization has profound implications for concepts like drift lines and fractal actualization. The parameters and probabilities governing the drift lines within one layer might be set or constrained by the rules of a higher, more encompassing layer. Similarly, the fractal patterns of actualization could exhibit different characteristics or resolutions depending on their position within this cosmic hierarchy. It suggests a degree of top-down influence where more fundamental levels of reality shape the expression of possibilities in the levels they subtend. This adds a sense of order and interdependence to the multiverse. Such a structure implies an almost incomprehensible scale and intricacy to existence. The universe explored by the devs team, while vast in its computational demands, is essentially a single, flat plane of cause and effect. MEQUAVIS, with its hierarchical multiverse, proposes something far more dimensional. It hints at realms of existence operating under principles that might be alien to our current understanding of physics or even logic. Exploring such a structure would require more than just processing power. It would demand a new kind of perception, a new way of understanding what reality even means. Section 6. The Illusion of Choice, Agency in Devs versus MEQUAVIS. In Devs, the concept of individual choice is ultimately revealed as a tragic illusion. Lily Chan's rebellion, her desperate attempts to defy the predictions of the dev system, are shown to be part of the preordained pattern all along. Her every act of defiance, every supposed exercise of free will, was already accounted for by the machine. The system even predicts her ultimate choice, the one that supposedly breaks the deterministic chain, only to reveal that this breaking was itself determined. This leaves the inhabitants of the devs universe as puppets, dancing to a tune written at the beginning of time. MEQUAVIS, however, offers a different perspective on agency. While it doesn't posit absolute, unconstrained free will, it suggests that individual choices, intentions, and even focused consciousness can play a role. These subtle inputs can influence which drift line is predominantly actualized or navigated. Think of it like steering a raft down a river. You cannot change the river's ultimate destination, the sea, nor can you ignore its current. But you can, through effort and skill, navigate around obstacles and choose which channels to follow within the broader flow. Small nudges can, over time, lead to significantly different journeys. This capacity for influence, however, is not absolute or godlike. It operates within the existing constraints of the drift lines and the overarching hierarchical structure of the MEQUAVIS multiverse. One cannot simply will a completely new reality into existence that violates fundamental principles. Rather, agency in MEQUAVIS is about skillfully interacting with the probabilistic nature of existence. It's about sensing the subtle currents of potentiality and making choices that align with desired outcomes, or that shift the probabilities in a favorable direction. It is a more nuanced dance between freedom and constraint. Therefore, the power of choice in MEQUAVIS is not about breaking immutable laws, as Lily attempts in Devs. It is more about navigating, influencing, and perhaps even co-creating reality within the vast, fluid system of drift lines. It suggests that consciousness is not merely a passive observer of a predetermined script. Instead, it can be an active participant, however modest its influence might seem, against the cosmic scale. This reintroduces a measure of meaning and responsibility, suggesting that our choices, however small, contribute to the unfolding texture of existence. Section 7. Woven into the fabric space, light, and simulation logic. Within the conceptual universe of MEQUAVIS, space is not merely a passive, empty container for events. It is an active component of the simulation's operational logic. The very geometry of space, its dimensionality, and its properties are intrinsically linked to how reality is computed or actualized. Think of space as the canvas and also part of the algorithm that determines how the paint, energy, matter, information can be applied and how it interacts. Changes in the fundamental understanding of space would thus imply changes in the simulation's core code. Light cones, a concept from physics, play a crucial role here. A light cone defines the region of spacetime that can influence an event, and the region that can be influenced by it. The speed of light acts as a fundamental speed limit for the propagation of causality. In MEQUAVIS, these are not just arbitrary physical constants. They are integral rules of the simulation, dictating how information flows, how causality unfolds, and how separate events maintain their distinctness. They are the underlying framework that shapes the structure of experience and the arrow of time within any given drift line. This perspective differs significantly from how Devs approaches its simulation. The Dev system attempts to replicate the known laws of physics to reconstruct the past and predict the future. It assumes physics as a given, external set of rules to be modeled. In MEQUAVIS, the physics we observe are the simulation's inherent rules of operation. The laws are not being copied, they are the software itself. This implies that a deeper understanding of reality might involve understanding the code of spacetime, the logic that underpins the very fabric of existence. Therefore, the structure of space and the behavior of light are not just phenomena to be observed. They are clues to the underlying architecture of reality as conceived by MEQUAVIS. Exploring the limits of these concepts, what happens near black holes at the supposed Planck scale or in hypothetical scenarios involving faster-than-light travel, becomes an investigation into the boundaries and potential exploits of the simulation itself. It suggests that the universe is a computational process, and its physical laws are the algorithms that govern its execution, defining the boundaries of possible experience. Section 8. Firewalls of perception, containing and defining realities. MEQUAVIS introduces the idea of firewalls, not in the digital security sense, but as fundamental barriers or interfaces between different realities or distinct layers within its hierarchical multiverse. These are not necessarily physical walls. They could be conceptual boundaries, energetic thresholds, or limitations inherent in the nature of perception or consciousness. Their purpose is to maintain the integrity and coherence of individual drift lines or separate hierarchical domains. Without such firewalls, the multiverse might dissolve into an undifferentiated chaotic soup of overlapping possibilities, rendering stable existence impossible. These firewalls act to contain and define realities. They ensure that one drift line, with its specific history and set of probable futures, remains distinct from another. They might also segregate the different operational levels of the hierarchical multiverse, preventing the rules or energies of one layer from catastrophically interfering with another. Think of them as cosmic cell membranes, selectively permeable, allowing for some interaction but preventing wholesale mergers or collapses. They are essential for the structured complexity that MEQUAVIS proposes, allowing for diversity without disintegration. How might such firewalls manifest? They could be related to the fundamental constants of nature, which, if slightly different, would yield radically different universes. They might be linked to the limits of energy density or information processing capacity within a given region of spacetime. Perhaps they are even tied to the nature of consciousness itself, where the ability to perceive or interact with certain realities is gated by one's level of awareness or energetic signature. These are the unseen boundaries that shape our experienced world, defining what is real and what remains potential or other. This concept of firewalls adds another layer of profound mystery and intricate structure to the MEQUAVIS model. The multiverse is not an open, easily traversable expanse. It is partitioned, segmented, and layered. Understanding these firewalls, their nature, their properties, their potential permeability, would be a critical step in truly comprehending the architecture of existence. It suggests that passage between realities, or access to different hierarchical levels, might be possible, but would require navigating these fundamental, and perhaps perilous divisions within the cosmic order. Section 9. Navigating the labyrinth: warnings, hopes, and the path forward. Devs serves as a potent, almost chilling cautionary tale. It depicts the pursuit of ultimate knowledge and absolute predictive power leading not to liberation, but to a sterile, inescapable conclusion. The determinism it champions, when fully realized, drains meaning from choice and purpose from existence. Forrest's creation, born of grief, ultimately offers only a gilded cage, a perfect replay of what has already been. The warning is clear: some technological quests, if pursued without wisdom and humility, can lead to the negation of the very human values they might initially seek to serve. MEQUAVIS, in contrast, offers a more nuanced and ultimately more hopeful vision. While it acknowledges a universe, or multiverse, of immense complexity governed by deep, underlying structures, it does not foreclose on the possibility of meaningful agency. The concepts of drift lines and fractal actualization suggest a reality that is dynamic and responsive, not rigidly fixed. It proposes a future that is not entirely pre-written but is instead a field of probabilities that can be influenced, navigated, and perhaps even co-created through conscious interaction and choice. Within the MEQUAVIS framework lie ideas like realignment and fracturing determinism. Realignment suggests the possibility of consciously shifting one's path from a less desirable driftline to a more favorable one, through focused intent or specific actions that alter probabilities. Fracturing determinism implies that even seemingly entrenched patterns of cause and effect, particularly at a personal or collective scale, might not be absolute. They might be strong tendencies, but with sufficient understanding and leverage, these patterns could potentially be disrupted or redirected, allowing for new emergent possibilities. The journey into these concepts is a journey into the heart of reality itself. Dev shows us the cul-de-sac of absolute certainty. MEQUAVIS hints at a labyrinth of potentials, vast and mysterious, yet navigable. Understanding these deeper structures, whether they are called drift lines, fractal actualizations, or hierarchical layers, is not merely an academic exercise. It could be key to navigating our collective future, to making choices that lead towards greater freedom and flourishing, rather than towards a perfectly predicted, but ultimately empty, destiny. The path forward is complex, but not without hope.